Carlos Salcedo in at Toronto FC. Jefferson Soteldo out at Toronto FC. Welcome back to another edition of Waking the Red Weekly presented by Footy Talks. My name is Michael Singh. No Mitchell Tierney with us today. It's just the two Musketeers here, but we have a ton to get to on today's episode. We will be giving you the latest on the Carlos Salcedo, Jefferson Soteldo transfer news. We have a couple of celebrations. We have the MLS SuperDraft to get to. We have some eMLS content, some signings that Toronto FC have made, the latest on Josie Altidore, a possible Sebastian Giovinco return, and more moves, of course, coming for Toronto FC. But first, before we get into any of that, let me introduce, of course, my lovely co-host sitting to my right on screen. It's the one and only Jeffrey P. Nesker. Jeff, how you doing?
I'm good, but you buried the lead. Our special guest today. We're completing the set here. We had Luke Wildman, we had KJ, and now we're getting Stevie Caldwell. So it's another spot on the WTR weekly bingo card that we get to cross off today. And I can't wait to talk to the man. I mean, TFC legend. And it's really good timing because as I looked at the rundown, you're going to ask him one heck of a question with respect to the imminent Carlos Salcedo arrival, if we're to believe your rumors, not the rumors, your rumors. I mean, we couldn't have a better perspective on that because I mean, I don't want to put the cart before the horse here. So let's go in order. Let's talk the SuperDraft.
Before you move on, Jeff.
Yep.
I agree with Will Dunn here, who's bang on. Your audio sounds like it's an AM radio. Is your mic connected?
Oh yeah, my mic is absolutely connected. I mean, yours does as well. So I'm not entirely sure.
Are you using if you go to your settings and check if your mic / camera is the right one that's chosen?
No, absolutely it is.
All right, well, you guys are just gonna have to live with that. I guess Jeff's gonna kind of reconvene here, so I'm going solo here. But yeah, I'm happy that Jeff did highlight that Stephen Caldwell, the one and only Stephen Caldwell, will be joining our show. Of course, former Toronto FC captain and one of the best center backs really to ever play for the club. So I'm excited that we'll be getting his perspective kind of on this potential move that is, from everything I'm hearing, is going to happen. But we'll get into that more shortly. And kind of just going through the rundown here quickly. Let's start with the MLS SuperDraft. Jeff, while you're back here, let's do a quick audio check.
Hi. Do I still sound like garbage?
Yeah, it's not the greatest, but it's okay. We'll make it work.
I think it's going to have to be what it is this time. But,
no worries. So I was just getting into the MLS SuperDraft and big kind of shift in direction here. Something we really haven't seen from the club in the past is Toronto FC selecting a pair of Canadians in the MLS SuperDraft. Of course, they traded the 3rd overall pick and Dom Dwyer to Dallas for $50,000 allocation money to kind of shed Dom Dwyer's contract. So they had a 2nd round pick and a 3rd round pick. And on Tuesday, they selected goalkeeper Luka Gavrin from St. John's University in the 2nd round, 31st overall. That's a Hamilton, Ontario native, someone who put up a really good stats in university, and is really making a case right now to potentially be the 3rd string goalkeeper on this club, seeing as they don't have a lot of depth there at that position.
Nope.
And their 3rd round pick was Rashawn Walks, who is, of course, surprise, surprise, from Brampton, Ontario. So Rashawn Walks is a forward winger. He's someone who maybe has potential to make this roster, but realistically, this is kind of one I want to talk to you, Jeff, is what are your expectations? Do you think we see either of these guys ever crack the squad here for Toronto FC?
I mean, probably not. These are developmental projects. Who's the netminder for TFC2? Is it still Caleb Patterson-Sewell, or is he Gonzo? I'm just wondering.
I think that still is remained to be seen, but I believe he probably is still the goal. He was the goalkeeper / coach last year.
Yeah.
So I'd be surprised if he isn't back, but you never know with the rumors that Mike Munoz is gone. You never know what kind of direction the club wants to be taken there. So
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Mo Farsi just signed with Columbus Crew 2 to have a coming out party in this MLS Next. I think MLS Next is going to be a really different beast than USL League One. And so TFC2 coming off the winningest season in the club's history is going to want to do some damage in MLS Next, right? And I think that these signings are looking towards the future in that regard. But quite honestly, I mean, we're pretty thin in the attack. I can see Rashawn getting some minutes over and above a third or fourth string goalkeeper at this juncture. But that all remains to be seen. I mean, this roster is a work in progress. So right now, at this moment, circa now, I don't see any spots for them in the first team, but who the hell knows, man? I mean,
yeah. History will tell us the Super Draft. There's not too many people who kind of make it through in Major League Soccer in general, as opposed, let alone Toronto FC. Obviously, the most recent name was Achara for TFC, and we know how good he's been, but I'm not sure you find Achara's quite often, especially considering he wasn't even the team's first pick that year. So I think he kind of surprised a lot of people. Subasa Endo is another notable name. Alex Bono, of course, on the roster. He was a high pick. So there has been success in the past, but not usually from later round guys. But I'm hearing a lot of positive things, at least on the pitch, when it comes to TFC's that goalkeeper, Luka Gavrin. And, TFC, they don't have a lot of depth in that position. So maybe he is one for the future as Quentin Westberg kind of winds down his career here with TFC. But we'll see. And one thing I want to add as well is the biggest notion here is, let's emphasize this, is they took 2 Canadians.
Yeah.
And that's kind of surprising considering Bob Bradley isn't Canadian. But one thing I've been told is this guy is, and I think I'll give credit here to Dwayne Rollins, who's kind of been on this ahead of time. Like, this guy's in tune with Canada soccer. And I've actually heard he has a really good relationship with the men's national team coach.
Mm-hmm.
John Herdman.
Yeah, I mean, it's in his best interest now that he's on this side of the border to exploit that market. I mean, we don't have to re-outline that Canadian domestics in MLS are at a bit of a disadvantage with respect to where they can go. I mean, the 3 Canadian teams are a much better shout than the American ones because of the shenanigans with international spots and all of that stuff. So it behooves Bob to be in the know. And I think this guy does his homework to a fault. So it's not surprising to me that he steps into this position and immediately, has a list this long of prospects within the Canadian system. That's no surprise at all. And it bodes really well for the future. I would have been surprised if we had heard that Bob knew nothing about the Canadian youth sport and player pipeline. That would have been more of a surprise than what we're hearing. So it's a pleasure. It really is a pleasure to know that our gaffer is, really plugged into the zeitgeist, right? Like that's wonderful news. And I don't see any negatives there.
Yeah. And one person who, of course, is also plugged in is Stephen Caldwell, who I see has just joined, but we'll give him a second here. Let's dive in quickly to our next topic. And that is breaking news, I guess, today with Liam Fraser signing with the Belgian second division team. I don't really know how to pronounce it. Perhaps we'll learn in the coming days, but KMSK Dines.
I'm going to take a crack. It was the same as yours. Dines, like Heinz, I think is the word. But,
so it's another move overseas for a young Canadian player. We know about Liam Fraser's history here at Toronto FC. We know he's been frustrated Vocally, he's come out and been frustrated with the fact that he wasn't able to kind of crack through and get an opportunity like he's wanted. This is a guy that was hyped up to really supplement Michael Bradley and, perhaps even displace Michael Bradley eventually from the roster, but Bradley does not want to go anywhere. And unfortunately, that the reality is Fraser does. So we're seeing Fraser make that move away. And it's kind of disappointing just because TFC, as we talked about, I think they still need another type of player like that, another holding midfielder that can kind of come up and kind of clean everything up when perhaps TFC does have a lead. I'm not sure they have too many natural guys on that roster. Obviously, Ralph Preseason can potentially play that role. However, I'm not sold on him being a pure number 6. Same with Noble Okello. So I'm disappointed to see that move transpire. I'm sure TFC was as well, because I was told that they were trying to, get that deal done. But it is what it is. But let's Jeff, let's bring our guest of honor today.
Steve, give us a thumbs up. Are you ready to go? Are you good?
Oh, he's ready. So we are delighted to be joined by former Toronto FC captain, one of the best defenders to ever play for the club, now doing some great work with TSN. It's the one and only Stephen Caldwell. Stevie, thank you very much for taking the time today and joining us.
Well, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be on. Excited to talk all things TFC.
Sorry about the vocal fry on my mic. Apparently, I sound like I'm underwater on AM radio, so we'll just have to deal with it. I sound great here in my own apartment, but I'm sure it's very different otherwise. We completed the set. We've had KJ on, we've had Luke on, and now we have you on. So we're really scratching off a check mark on our WTR weekly checklist. So thank you very much for agreeing to be on. Let's get right to it, Mike. You've got some killer questions, and the first one's a real humdinger. So.
Oh, of course. We got a lot that we want to get to chat with you today, Stevie. And Stevie knows all about the pandemic issues with everything that he's done on the broadcasting side, especially with the last couple of years. But first, Stevie, the talk of the town right now, of course, is Lorenzo Insigne. And what a signing that was for the club, with them announcing that Lorenzo Insigne will join TFC in the summer. What was your reaction to the signing? And I guess, do you believe now is the right time to bring in Lorenzo Insigne?
Yeah, incredible signing. My reaction, or when I first heard about this, was surprise, really. I didn't think that it was going to be possible for TFC or anybody else in MLS to bring him over from Serie A and prize him away from Napoli. I know some issues there with his club, and it felt like he might leave and try something different. But I always felt there'd be a whole host of European suitors, and he would probably prefer that kind of move. So when it started to become reality, or it started to really gain momentum, yeah, I was shocked, and I really felt like it was a big signature move from TFC to bring in somebody of that quality and that caliber. Was going to be significant. Obviously, to do that, they were going to have to break the bank. And I mean that in every sense of the word, literally break the bank. So for me, it's an astronomical amount of money. I find it hard to believe from a business sense that it makes sense. He's going to have to win at least 2 MLS Cups, or TFC are going to have to win the Cups, but he's going to have to play an integral part in that for it to be anywhere near worth it, in my mind. But in terms of, grabbing the imagination and really creating some momentum again for TFC and bringing, bringing them back into focus of the Toronto sports fan, I do feel it was needed. It's been a tough couple of years, especially last year, which was pretty dire from TFC's point of view. So in that regard, I'm sure that had a big part in why they made that deal and they gave him that kind of money. But he's a quality player. If he settles and they get the right pieces around about him, they come up with the right style that suits him, he's going to be one of the best, if not the best player in MLS.
This is why you're such a pro. You segued perfectly into my question. So let's say you can only sign one more player off the back of Lorenzo Insigne. Money's no object. You can abide by some of the rumors that are running around the interwebs. You can go pie in the sky. What would be the player profile?
Oh, it's a tremendous question, actually. And the reason it's so difficult for me to answer, I'm pretty clear on 2 players that they need to sign. But let's take Insigne. So I'm going to go for the one guy that I think will bring the best out in Insigne, and that's a number 9. There's no doubt that TFC have been short in that department. Whether Akinola stays or not, I think still up in the air a little bit, but he would be an important player for me. But if they go out and get a real outstanding number 9, someone who can hold the ball up, who can stretch a defence as well, I think that's important. He needs to be someone who can run as well, and someone who can share the goal load. Because, I know Seba wasn't necessarily a prolific goal scorer before he came to MLS, but Insigne is of the same ilk. So I don't think he can necessarily put the burden of 25 goals on Insigne's shoulders. I think someone else is going to have to come in and get 15, 20 himself. So I think that number 9, and Belotti was mentioned, he would be an incredible signing. If they go and get somebody of that standard, somebody who's, probably on a par with Insigne or somewhere near it, that would be utterly incredible. So, yeah, for me, it would be that. The other one I was thinking about is, of course, a centre-back.
I'm shocked. I'm shocked that you went at number 9 first.
No,
I'm sitting here in total disbelief for the last 2 minutes. Like, did he really say did Stephen Caldwell really say a number 9 first?
Like I said, with regards to Insigne, I think that number 9 is probably more important for his game to get the best out of him. But probably in terms of the squad, if I'm in Bob Bradley's shoes, I think he's thinking a centre back is absolutely essential. They obviously have struggled big time in that department. They need someone who can lead, can run as well, can obviously bring the ball out for the back, can play a number of different roles or be exceptional in a few different areas, and that's going to cost a bit of money as well. So, yeah, the two positions are vital if TFC are going to have a serious run in the playoffs.
You might know a thing or two. Well, yeah, you might know a thing or two about that, Stevie? About someone leadership at the back.
Well, they need somebody better than I was. I'll tell you that. They need a talented player than me, but somebody that can marshal that defence is essential. Try and get the best out of Chris Mavinga again. He's been disappointing for me, but I know we all know what he's capable of. So someone who can lead him and get the best out of him is important.
Yeah.
Well, one player that I've heard is going to be coming in, Stevie, is Carlos Salcedo, the Mexican international center back, perhaps even a leader at the back there, obviously with everything he's done with Tigres. Now, my question for you, Stevie, is history will tell us that spending designated player money on a center back is typically, it really hasn't really worked out well in MLS. But as a center back yourself, do you think there is any truth to sort of that theory? Or can you still win by spending DP money on a center back?
I think you can. I think it's vitally important. I've always thought that, to be fair. I really have. I remember a few years ago when John Terry was kind of floating around. I think he went to Villa, but he was leaving Chelsea. And I felt if an MLS team had got John Terry at that time, they would have won the MLS Cup. I just think the impact of that kind of leader, that experience, someone who can really, marshal a back line and still got a bit of football left. Now, it can't be someone over the hill. It needs to be someone who can still move and still has the physical attributes to compete in MLS. But I do believe a DP centre back would be an important signing, a big signing. I also think that you guys might laugh at this, but even like a designated player goalkeeper might be important.
Oh, Howard,
honestly, I don't know if you need to go that far in terms of paying over $1.5 million in salary. So I think a TAM goalie obviously would work, but a goalkeeper is really, really important. As we've seen, the teams that get really far, the teams that win MLS Cups usually have a solid goalkeeper and someone that can be relied upon. So, it's often been neglected, a defence and a goalkeeper in MLS. We always think that it's about the forward players, because ultimately when you reflect on a game, you remember the goals or the guys that did something special. But, if you really analyse and dig deep into any playoff run, any team that gets to lift that MLS Cup in late November, early December, usually the defence has been absolutely magnificent. Like TFC, for example, in 2017, the defence was outstanding at the end. There was moments of excellence from Jose or Seba or Vasquez, but the defence was so solid and so resolute. That, for me, was what won them that championship.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned Vasquez, because obviously TFC socials are on fire right now with even the implication that Salcedo's coming in as a designated player. And my response is always, well, we're not going to get a million Vasquez's, right? Like that, he was a DP, but in TAM clothing, and I think the fan base is a little, the yardsticks are a little skewed. Like now because of Victor Vasquez, we can get anybody on TAM, and a DP is only for Messi or Insigne level talent. And I agree with you. I think just like John Herdman trotting out Daniel Henry to get his yellow within the first 20 minutes, and then sub him off was kind of a tactical masterstroke. I think we can do damage in MLS if we start thinking outside the box, a DP center back, that sort of thing. So I embrace it. I absolutely embrace it. Okay, here's my question. Do you think TFC is going to compete for an MLS Cup in 2022?
Oh, big question. I think it's possible. My opinion is no, because how much rebuilding needs to come. But I wouldn't be surprised. I think guys have been written off a little bit too often, and I do think they've needed that freshness to be brought in. But you think about an Osorio, and a Mavinga, and a Delgado. These guys, Bradley, I think with the right players around the bottom, can still have a good season, but he needs to be protected. So I don't think it's out the realms of possibility. I do think that it's going to be more difficult. MLS is getting better and younger and fresher every year. So, where we are at the moment, there's not enough pieces being added to TFC to make them serious contenders. Can they squeak in the playoffs? Absolutely. There's going to be a number of teams that will make that. But can they really have a serious impact? I'm not so sure. But we'll just have to see what the signings are like. And really, I think another thing that's important to analyse is the style that we expect Bob Bradley to play and how good a coach he is at implementing that. So that's going to be vital. If Bob can find that style and he can get the right players in the right positions, I think TFC can be considerably better. I do think there'll be more stability and more harmony towards the squad. It was a really fractious year for Toronto FC, obviously with the changes in coach and the change in style, and a few guys maybe getting to latter stages of their career, a couple of discipline type problems, a year that we've not seen in TFC history for the past 4 or 5 years. It's been plain sailing. It's been all positive stuff. So I would say highly unlikely, but I wouldn't rule it out. And if they get hot and they can hang in there and be in a good position come July and Senior steps in, it could be very exciting down at the Lakeshore.
Absolutely. Pulling a Sounders is all I've ever wanted. So I think it would be, I'm reserving my final analysis until after the summer transfer window.
I think there's still a lot of names to come in, still a lot of names potentially to also go out of the club. Bill Manting hinting that it's going to be a completely different looking side come the start of the season, which is about a month and a half away. So it's coming up right on us. I had a question lined up, but actually someone in our chat has a way better question than me. I'm ashamed I didn't think of it. And we're going to shift directions a little bit. We're going to go towards the Canadian men's national team. And of course, this week, Scott Arfield announcing his retirement from the Canadian men's national team. So, Stevie, I was kind of just wondering, and Alex actually in particular was wondering if you can offer any opinion on the Arfield retirement from the Canadian men's national team.
Yeah, my opinion is that it's really disappointing. I have to say, I think that Scott brings something pretty unique to that group of players. Obviously, we're stacked in the midfield area, and we've played a number of games now without his influence. But I still think that he brings something unique. He's a player who can really drive a team forward. He's got great legs. He's someone who can be that kind of link between midfield and attack. He can play different positions. So, I'm a big fan of Scott Arfield. He's a guy I've got to know pretty well with my work with the national team. He's obviously someone who has played at one of my former clubs in Burnley and has Scottish roots, was born in Scotland. So we're pretty close. We were pretty close, and we kind of keep in touch from time to time. So I'm disappointed that it's went this way. I don't have any insight into how that has happened. I do think that there was a lot of pressure coming from Rangers for Gerrard to for Arfield from Gerrard to travel towards Canada and to jump around and the difficulties of the games that he was playing with the national team, and I think that influenced him. But I thought that it was going to be through that campaign that they really needed to win the league. They won the league, of course, Rangers, and then I thought it was going to come back. Yeah. And so I think that there's something there probably between Herdman and Arfield. I think something's probably happened in terms of conflict, or I don't know exactly. I'm speculating like most of us are, but it is disappointing because he's an important player and he would have been a great guy to have, a great selection option.
Yeah.
Maybe John felt that as a selection option, if he wasn't going to make the 11, it was going to be difficult to have him within the squad. I think Scott's a guy who's very alpha male. He wants to play. He wears his heart on his sleeve. He's very vocal. Yeah. Maybe it was felt that he would affect the harmony of a squad who have been doing pretty well in his absence when you think about the qualifying campaign, where we are in the group. But disappointed. I wished he was there, and I think there's going to be points in the next year or so where we really would have needed an Arfield type player to either come off the bench or to start a game for the national team.
I agree. So speaking again, I mean, you're a pro, man. Speaking about absences on the Canadian men's national team, how much of a blow do you think the loss of Alphonso Davies is?
Yeah, it's a big blow. Nobody even. It's a blow for Bayern Munich, one of the biggest teams in the world. So it shows you, how much Alphonso's developed and how important he is. Is it like critical? I don't think so. I hope I'm right in saying that. And I don't think that I mentioned this in a couple of things that I've done and did some for SportsCentre. And I mentioned that I don't think that the lads are necessarily like quaking in their boots because Alphonso can't make it. These guys are confident. They're assured of the larger group and the fact that if one man's down, then another man steps in, and that's been a great strength of John Herdman's Canada. It's a group of guys who have bought into the culture that he's set, and now it's almost like with any club or any national team. Whenever you set a culture, you almost want it to organically eventually just kind of take hold of itself. And I think we're at that stage. And I say this with all due respect. I think, anybody could coach this national team. They're so focused at this moment. And that's credit to Herdman for setting that up and creating that environment. But these guys are just absolutely dedicated and singularly focused to qualifying. That there'll be disappointment and obviously it will be an issue for the coaches. But I think they can get by without him. I think they can come up with a style, and I think it provides an opportunity for somebody else, whether it be that David-Larin partnership that we really want to see get going, or a Liam Miller or an Osorio in a kind of inverted midfield type position. There's some scope there to tweak things a little bit and come up with maybe a different way of playing or a different personnel to get the best out of the team and get the positive performance and result.
Yeah, it's abandon technical football. Put Cava out there, just long balls all the time, and be done with it. It will definitely surprise people that have game planned around triple marking Alphonso Davies. So I have faith in the team. I think they've proved it in the Gold Cup, and it's a blow. Absolutely, losing your talisman, losing perhaps the best modern left back. Attacking left back in the world is not something you're going to celebrate, but I do think that we can rise above it, and it'll be very, very interesting. Follow-up question: do you think the game on the 30th is actually happening? Like, do you think we're gonna be in attendance, or do you think it's gonna be played against closed doors?
No, it'll happen. So that's the first part of the question. I think there'll be fans there. I don't know if it'll be full capacity, but I do think there'll be people there. Unfortunately, I hope it's full. I think it's important that it's full. The whole reason they go to Hamilton was obviously the conditions and then the crowd. So I hope Canada has that advantage. I really believe that the first game is the most important game. The Honduras away game. I think if Canada can go to Honduras and pick up the 3 points, then obviously they're in a a very commanding position, and it sort of makes that the USA game takes care of itself. We've had some great battles with them in the past couple of years, won some, lost a few, but the ones that we lost, we kind of left someone out there. There was we were a better team, and I think both of them, even the one where we lost 4-1, we were a better team. We just didn't defend. We didn't perform in the boxes, both boxes, how we hoped and how we should have. But the one in the Gold Cup was a tragedy, really. Like we absolutely battered them after losing that goal in the first few seconds. And these guys are itching to play them again. You know, they want to get at them. They think they're the better side. They really believe in that, and they want to go prove it. Feel like they've been wronged a little bit. So that'll take care of itself. But Honduras is critical for me. To pick up the 3 points there would really set the pathway.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we've been told that environment in Honduras is one of the toughest, if not the toughest, in CONCACAF to go down into and get a result. So it's a big window for Canada.
Yeah.
And as you say, Stevie, as the players are itching, we're itching to see this team back on the pitch. I feel like it's been an eternity when it's been like 2 months, but it's still exciting to see them back. And Stevie, thank you very, very much for your time. Obviously, very generous. What are you going to be up to this year, man? What's going on in your life?
Oh, busy as always, Mike. A few things in the go. Looking forward to MLS season getting started and getting going with that. I think we're going to have 3 successful Canadian teams. I really hope so. Vancouver can build on great end to the season last year, and Montreal signing Alistair Johnson was an amazing signing. Really, you know, put the money into that, and obviously TFC rebuilding. So I'm excited about that. I've also got a great business in Best Athletes that we're doing some good work there. We're trying to get out to soccer clubs to support athletes in their recruitment process, and we've got a whole suite of services and tools. So I'm putting loads of energy into that, and just generally trying to support the soccer community and see it grow in Canada. And you guys, congratulations on the work that you're doing. All of us speaking about this great game and getting out there is only helping our country. And it's going to be a great year. World Cup at the end of the year. Hopefully I'll be there calling Canada games at that. I forgot all about that. That's how good the early part of the year is going to be.
There you go. That's amazing. We're looking forward to seeing you.
Stephen, it was a pleasure, and hopefully we can do it again sometime, because like I said,
let me know.
Looking forward to this. Cheers, mate.
Of course. Less than a month, maybe, or just over a month, we'll see Stevie back on those TSN MLS on TSN broadcasts. So looking forward to it. Always appreciate your insights, Stevie, and it's evident why we wanted to have you on. So thanks once again for taking the time, Stevie.
Guys, see you soon.
Cheers. Wow, that was awesome. And I didn't have to break into that we have a drinking game about him on the WTR game threads. That'll be for the next interview. That was great.
Yeah, that was Stephen Caldwell, the one and only. Of course, I'm sure you guys could tell by the accent, as Chris is saying in the chat. Steve's a wonderful guest to have on the show. He's met him in person. He's simply amazing. Yeah, that's kind of the vibe that we always get when we talk about Steven Caldwell. Very, very outgoing person, very easy to talk to, and some tremendous insight, something that not a lot of people can really offer, because no one's really walked the walk that Steven Caldwell has. And I was actually told, this was a guy that was interviewing for TFC head coaching positions not too long ago. So this is a guy that knows his stuff in and out. He's really helped at the grassroots level. A guy who came up from Scotland, playing the Premier League, of course, and then at the grassroots level here in Canada, staying around and supporting the game. So yeah, great insight. But Jeff, let's move on here. We have a lot to get to quickly.
Just quickly, because it's funny that you brought up the rumor of him interviewing for the gaffer job, because I did a guest on the Footy Prime. They do like 14 different iterations of their podcast now, so I'm going to misquote what particular version I was on. But they asked me about Danny Dichio, who's recently left the club to pursue an assistant coaching gig in USL at Sacramento. It's either San Diego or Sacramento. There's far too many Southern California teams in the USL. But they asked me, why he wasn't, what I thought about if he had an opportunity to go higher up the rung at TFC. And I sort of cut them off because I said, not right now. Right now, if we hadn't swung for a Bob Bradley kind of hire, the fan base would have been aghast. It was just an interesting wrinkle. I'm not as good at segueing as Mitch or Stephen Caldwell, so I really don't have a way to close that loop. But it was just interesting that it sort of came up in conversation.
Yeah, I don't really have an answer to that. I think the one thing is this club has that needle has moved with this club. It's no longer, they don't want the guys that are like Greg Vanny kind of coming in and don't really have experience. Like this fan base demands a name, a commodity, someone with a big resume. And Danny Dickey, I'm sure a lot of fans would have loved to seen him because of what he's given to this club, not only on the pitch but off the pitch.
Yeah.
But then there's question marks about, is he ready as a coach? I don't have that answer.
And off the back of the season we just had, it's never happening. Like it's, we needed to hire like a Bob Bradley to reset the zeitgeist a little bit, and an internal hire, even if it had been messy, an internal hire just wasn't going to move the needle at this juncture. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So let's move on here, and we're gonna quickly touch on a trophy that was won by Toronto FC this weekend. And that is by eMLS Pro Goal Machine coming through in his debut, winning for his hometown club in his first event for the club, Toronto FC's first title really in eMLS. And what a performance it was overall in the competition. He had 14 wins, 2 draws, and 1 loss throughout the entire competition, which is absolutely ridiculous considering he's playing the other best players in North America. So for him to bring home a title and $20,000 in cash on his debut is quite the feat. So just want to give a little bit of love to Goal Machine. You can catch League Series 2, the second event. Funny. You can catch League Series 2 at the end of the month. I just want to give a quick shout out.
What's his play style like? Is he aggressive or is he patient?
Well, one thing he said is he's very versatile, so he can really adapt. I mean, but he also has the gamer tag Goal Machine. So if you're naming your team Goal Machine, that means you better be scoring goals, and that's something he did. I believe he led the entire tournament in goals scored per game, which is quite remarkable, especially considering the guy he faced in the finals won his semifinal match by 11-0. So he went into the finals and beat him despite all that momentum. So it was really exciting. I saw TFC Live kind of going off about that. So keep an eye on Goal Machine as he continues this push. It's the first ever TFC victory there in eMLS, so that's exciting.
Yeah.
So let's potentially. We'll see. So let's move on here. And I got next on the rundown, I have Jordan Perruzza re-signing with Toronto FC. He signed a new deal that'll run through the 2024 season with an option for 2025. This is a guy who just turned 21 years old actually on Sunday. So happy belated birthday to Jordan Perruzza. Jeff, what did you make of this signing?
I love it. I mean, he tore up USL. Some of those goals he scored were absolute worldies. He reminds me of a Nick DeLeon kind of player because of where he scores his goals, kind of at the tip of the box, just absolute screamers. If he's got that kind of utility and can slot in and play both sides, also slot in at midfield, then we solve an issue that we kind of created by losing. What did my mic just?
Sorry, no, I'm annoying what you're saying. Jordan Perruzza midfield.
I'm just saying. Listen, if he has that ability to slot in as an attacking midfielder as well as a forward player, gives us that utility.
Potentially.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we're also kind of light on the striker pool, so all signs point to great. Is he a number 9? Can he lead the attack, Mike? From what you've seen?
I think that's his position. I think that's his best position. He is a number 9, perhaps maybe with a 2-striker system. I know he has a tendency to kind of drift out on that right wing at times, but he's an out and out striker in my opinion. This is a guy who loves playing kind of in between the goalposts, and a guy who's really aggressive. I mean, we haven't really seen it too much on the MLS level, but in short stints, we kind of saw that knack for goal. You think about that Canadian Championship final where he deflected that shot off the post in the dying seconds of that game. He obviously scored a goal in just 7 appearances last year. So I think a lot to build on. As Bob Bradley said, this is a guy who they're hoping can take a big step forward next season. And with their depth at striker right now, I mean, he's going to have to. So I do like this deal because this is a guy who, when he first signed for TFC, he had a lot of European interest. And TFC locking down one of their youngsters that, doesn't leave the club, because we've seen a couple already depart. So the deal overall, but we'll kind of see how this plays out. But speaking of strikers, Jeff, we have a big one here to get to, and that's the Josie Altidore.
Yeah.
Of course. So Josie Altidore is still technically on the Toronto FC roster right now. Jeff, I guess I'll say it. So he's not going to be at training camp with Toronto FC, as I guess the rumor right now is that he's going to be finalizing the terms for his buyout. I've been told that decision was made quite a while ago when I reported it, that he won't be back as a designated player. But apparently they're still trying to finalize exactly what he's going to be getting in his buyout. So kind of stay tuned for that. I mean, we've talked about it so much, so I don't think we have to get into it too much, but hopefully we can find a way to get Josie kind of a good proper send-off in a way that doesn't really disrespect what he's done here for TFC. So I guess we can kind of leave it at that.
So you've heard a buyout. There's nothing with respect to where he might land next. He might retire. He might negotiate his own deal. Nothing about.
Yeah, he's not retiring. I don't think he's retiring. That'd be a shock. But I'm sure there's several clubs that are going to be interested in his services at a lesser price. So stay tuned for some Josie Altidore news in the coming days, weeks, as TFC kind of finalize exactly what that looks like. So let's move on here. Next on the rundown, I just want to quickly touch on is Dries Mertens. And that was something I tweeted out last week. And essentially what I was told was in the offseason, or maybe right before the offseason, the club was actually really close to a deal with Mertens. Really, and like when I say close to a deal, I mean like close to a deal with Mertens. And the only reason why talks kind of fell apart, and this is along with Insigne, let me add, but only reason why talks kind of fell apart was because Mertens wanted to try and stay with Napoli. Now, apparently, Napoli's off the table.
Yeah, they've said
so. I'm wondering if
they don't want him. So yeah.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if there is a way that TFC circle back here and kind of pick up those negotiations. I've heard that there's been nothing yet on those matters, but is it possible down the road that this is something that comes to fruition? We'll see. So stay tuned. Just let me just put that rumor out there, as we love to do kind of on this show.
I love him. So can we please sign him, please? Just as
I would love. I would love that too.
I would love that so much. So damn much. I can't even tell you. But it's exciting. It's exciting. Let's get into the thing.
Yeah. Well, speaking of rumors, something that I reported last week is TFC have reached a deal that will see Jefferson Soteldo depart the club, and in comes Carlos Salcedo. I hinted that be surprised that these rumors are related. Well, I guess the cat is out of the bag, and it seems like TFC will be making a sort of a swap deal here for Jefferson Soteldo and bringing in Carlos Salcedo. So Soteldo goes to Tigres, Salcedo comes to Toronto FC. Jeff, what's your initial reaction here? It's not official yet because the club hasn't announced it, but I've been told that deal is pretty much done.
And I've been told by many sources that it's as a DP. And I'm fine with it. I know Stephen Caldwell is fine with it. I know you're fine with it. The greater TFC fandom is melting down about it, but I'm 100% fine with it for a multitude of reasons. Maybe Salcedo gets bought down in the future. Maybe his salary allows for that. But a DPCD for this year, just fine. Let's remember that we're not competing in Champions League, so we do have a bit of a margin for a rebuild. I mean, if we're gonna carry a DPCB into a season, this is the season to do it, because we're in a rebuild anyway, and there's a good chance that the summer transfer window is going to be just as exciting as the winter one. I'm all for it. The only thing I don't like is having a Mexican national team player on TFC, but that's just me being petty. Beyond that, I have no problem. I mean, our defensive stats last year were atrocious. We need somebody in there. We didn't need Jefferson Soteldo, regardless of how I feel about the player or his place in the team. Like we didn't. He was a luxury. This move is a coup. I mean, how do you sell a player that the global soccer market knows that you don't want, that you overpaid for less than 9 months ago? I mean, at a certain point, you have to take a certain licking for that. And if all it is a straight swap for an area of need, which is a center back, and he gets the DP tag, so be it. You know what I mean? It's a very little problem in my respect.
I wouldn't say they overpaid for Jefferson Soteldo, as I think they
No,
got him
no.
because it was a discount of a deal.
Correct, yeah.
But
Overpaid
I think this
in terms of what
solves
people are willing to pay. Now, unfortunately.
this solves a big issue with TFC.
Yeah.
Of course, that is getting rid of Jefferson Soteldo's contract as a guy who potentially doesn't want to be here, a guy potentially the club doesn't really want to be here. And in return, they're bringing in a guy who solves a problem for them. And that, of course, is a major problem there in the back line. And that's a center back in Salcedo. And this is a guy who's played in Europe. He's gone on to do good things with the national team. He plays an important role for Tigres. So if he can do all that, I'm sure he can fit in just fine in Major League Soccer. As we talked with Stevie, his opinion there was that you absolutely could win with a designated player center back, and TFC definitely need that right now. So right now, yes, I can confirm like it would be as a designated player, Jeff, but also with the potential that it could be bought down eventually. I don't think that necessarily happens this season.
Nope.
But perhaps in the summer, if they find another move there that they can make, perhaps it does happen this season. So we'll see kind of how that plays out. But it's an exciting signing. Like, I know he's not really the household name, the commodity like Insigne, but you can't get 3 Insignes. That's just not how the budget works in MLS. That's just not how all of that works. But he is going to be the best center back potentially to ever play for the club. Potentially.
I mean, potentially. Listen. He scored an own goal with his genitals on his way out of Tigres, so he'll fit right in it with respect to the brain fart issue. Listen, we're seeing a lot of, is the market value the same? Nathan John right here. It's like comparing apples to napalm, Nathan. Like, Liga MX is double contract under the books. The books have extra books, and then here's our hidden books kind of thing. The fact of the matter is that this is a coup. It's a deal. It's a great deal. It's a tidy little piece of business. MLS roster rules are draconian. Liga MX roster rules are insane chaos. So, to get stuck on figures, let's just enjoy the fact that we were able to achieve a pretty impossible situation right now. Target an area of need for ourselves, target an area of need perhaps for Tigres. Everybody's happy. Nobody's doing backflips, but everybody's happy. This is a great deal. The league going for it possibly has something to do with the fact that they're looking for that kind of synergy on in the lead up to this expanded Leagues Cup, where MLS breaks for the summer months and has a little World Cup style tournament, which nobody wants and nobody understands. But it could be one of those things. I love the deal. It has nothing to do with my opinion on Soteldo. I keep telling myself every morning, but I love the deal. I absolutely love it. We need a center back. This guy's elite. Onward and upward.
Yeah, so hopefully this plays out the way it does, and then I'll add it. I think this is a really big Bob Bradley move, and I heard he was pulling some strings there to kind of get this deal kind of across the line here. So hopefully this announcement comes in the coming days. I'm hearing he will be joining TFC in training camp in California, which is a big boost to the club ahead of the start of the season. So hopefully he can provide some stability there at the back that helps him get to the summer when, of course, some more signings will be joining. Speaking of more signings, Jeff.
Salcedo, hold on one second. Didn't Salcedo play for Real Salt Lake when Bill Manning was associated with the club? This is great.
He did.
This is some great synergy here. I mean,
He also had a little bit of a falling out, I believe, when Bill Manning was associated with the club, but I'm think that was more so with the head coach at the time as opposed to Bill Manning.
Kamar Lawrence and Chris Arm. When Chris Armas signed Kamar Lawrence, I was like, didn't you guys have like a public war of the words on his way out of Red Bull? So, I'm also a firm believer that conflict that's resolved breeds a better relationship. So maybe it's just water under the bridge with him and Bill, and they can talk at a much deeper level, which is, bodes well for the club anyway.
Potentially, or it was nothing, but we will never really know because I have no idea about that era.
Never really know. Wasn't that RSL when that guy, that really aggressive guy that ended up getting Mike Petke was also coach, or am I fudging the date? I don't know. I'm just guessing.
You know way too much about RSL, man. So the next thing I want to get on the rundown here is something that a lot of people have been asking about, something a lot of people have been talking about, and that is Sebastian Giovinco. What the heck is going on with Seba? He still, is putting out really random Instagram posts, kind of spurring up some speculation here with his next potential move. But what I'm hearing, and I think Tom Bogart reported yesterday that TFC and the club were no talks with Seba right now. Mm-hmm. And I'm hearing that it's very, very unlikely that Seba does return to Toronto FC. Yeah. The club has, it's going to have ample allocation money. However, Seba is, I'm sure he'll settle for something around max TAM, but I think that price tag is a little bit too big, and TFC have other needs they need to spend that allocation money on. So I'm hearing that is the direction the club will be heading. I know it's not news anyone really wanted to hear, but unless Seba kind of drops that price tag, that's kind of where the club's head is at right now. Apparently, that's what I've been told. So take that for what you will, which is, it is what it is at this point. Like, we have more exciting things to look forward to. I don't think any Italian butts are not going to be in the seat next season because Sebastian Giovinco isn't there. They have a pretty dang good Italian coming in the summer. So not too really worried for that right now.
Ivan hit the nail on the head right here when he says, with air quotes, Gio will settle for max TAM. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't want to speak too much about it, but it is disappointing because you and I both heard all the rumors, that it was a done deal. And when the dust clears, was it because of was it Brendan Dunlop who said that possibly, when Bradley walked in, he was like, why are we going for Sebastian Giovinco? Why don't we go for, the new Sebastian Giovinco? And then he just got sort of squeezed out. He got preempted. Or was it his actions in the public sphere? I mean, I don't know if we deserve to know. I don't know if we're ever going to know.
I think a lot of those rumors were kind of stemmed from Sebastian Giovinco himself too. Mm-hmm. This is a guy that loves to play the media and loves to kind of play the fan base.
Well, unfortunately, he's not very good at it. Like, anyway, I mean, it's disappointing.
That's okay. Let's not spend too much time on Seba. But yeah, another club legend, of course, that may not make his return. So let's move on here and finally want to touch on one last thing: some potential more moves coming for Toronto FC. Of course, as I mentioned earlier in the show, Bill Manning said that this is going to be a completely new looking side. Some players coming in, some players going out. Now, I can't give away too much right now, but what I will say is
high pressing.
What I will say is TFC are not done on the phone line within MLS, and I'll say when, I don't know, let's say when someone makes their return in late August, they may not be the only one making their return. So I'll kind of leave it at that, and we'll see if more deals kind of come to fruition within the coming days, weeks. But Ayo Akinola, I know a lot of people are asking in the chat. I'm hearing that is going to be announced in the coming days. We'll see when exactly that'll be officially announced by the club. But I heard that's been done for a while, as I've been talking about for quite some time. And we're going to see a lot more moves coming in for TFC, whether that is before the start of the season, whether that is in the summer. I'll be interested to see exactly who's at training camp for the club, who's on trial for the club. I'll see if I can get any word into that, and stay tuned, guys, because it's going to be a busy couple of weeks for the Reds as training camp begins, and as the season is right around the corner, they need to fill out a full squad, and they're not quite there yet.
Yep. Absolutely. They gotta bring some people in. Obviously, the preseason games that we're hearing inklings of are not going to be streamed in any capacity. I know that they're going to California, having some inter-squad. The word escapes me. Inter-squad shuffle.
Scrimmages.
Yeah, there you go. That's the word. Thank you. Scrimmages with the two LA teams. So Bradley's former employer, LAFC, and also the employer of our former illustrious gaffer, Los Angeles Galaxy. Those would be interesting to see. We haven't seen TFC face off against Vanny's new side yet in any capacity. So it would be nice to see, but I'm not holding my breath for any kind of streaming option.
Yeah, well, let's kind of see how that plays out. I know they also have a friendly scheduled for February 19th, kind of later on in the preseason, and that's against Sporting Kansas City, I believe. So a bit of another random one that TFC don't really see too often. But yeah, I'm sure there'll be a bunch of preseason games. I don't know. I haven't got a word if they're going to be streamed or not. You know, potentially we can find a way to get a stream going. TFC, Eric G, I know if you're watching this, you know, see if you can kind of help TFC live out, because we're craving some more TFC content, and we'll kind of see how this preseason shapes up, because it's shaping up to be right now a very intriguing one. As I said, I think there's still a whole backlog of moves for TFC to announce. So we'll kind of see how this plays out over the next weeks. But Jeff, another show in the books, and just want to give a quick shout out to friend of the show and one of the best guests that we've had on, Stephen Caldwell, for joining us. If you missed that segment, please feel free to go back and rewatch, because I highly recommend. He offers some valuable insight as someone who has been a part of the club, someone who's been a crucial center back for the club, and what that's been like, you know, as TFC move forward, how they have to kind of solve that issue. And perhaps that is a designated player. Stevie offers some really good insight there. But yeah, let's wrap up now, and thank you everyone in the chat once again for being so lively. Like, our numbers so far, like the last couple of weeks, have been absolutely crazy. We appreciate all your engagement. I'm sorry we can't get to all of your comments in the chat. I mean, some of them we honestly wish we could delete, because it's very skeptical comments out there, but overall still a good time. We appreciate all your contributions. If you guys are listening to this show later on as a podcast, please like, rate, and subscribe. But for now, Jeff, I guess until next week, we will see you guys.
So proud of us. We didn't go super late. This is gonna lose his mind. Anyway, Mike, always a pleasure. Love doing this one. I love the Two Musketeers. Sometimes we don't have to listen to Mitch interrupt us. I'm going to roll the closing credits. Let's do it. Cheers, everyone.